Probably a little steaky, maybe.
Inevitably tell me that yes.
All right. So we are going to get started here today. We have a lot of books to talk about. Welcome everybody to the Furry Fiction Showcase. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. So how many people here would you say are avid readers? Awesome. We got a good turnout. Is there anybody who maybe read a lot in high school maybe, and then kind of fell out of it after high school? Yeah, I went through kind of the same thing, and then for 10 years I think I didn't really read or write anything after high school. And then when I tried to pick up books again, I had so much trouble getting into them. I didn't really understand why they weren't hitting like they used to. And as it turns out, the reason is because there weren't enough gay animal people in them. So now I go around to cons talking about furry fiction because it is basically all I read at this point. And I do a lot of talking about furry fiction on the internet and spreading around the good word of all these different books. So, who am I? Well, I am Shiloh Sky. You can find me on sites like Blue Sky for Affinity and So Furry, where you can find me talking about these books and introducing you to a whole bunch of different ones beyond what we'll be talking about today. I am a writer. I have a story that appeared in Work for Hire and have a short story that just released on The Voice of Dog that I recorded. I am an editor. I work as a proofreader on the Nas Saga by Joaquin Baldwin, and I am a dog. I am a Labrador who reads way too many books. So, what is furry fiction? We have to define that. Furry fiction is kind of like, you might think it's sort of maybe something like Redwall, maybe something like Watership Down, maybe something like Call the Wild, if we're kind of stretching it. But these are books that I would call more like furry adjacent literature. They are not necessarily for furries, made for furries by furries. When I talk about furry fiction, I'm talking about books that are written by somebody like Kyle Gold, for instance, who I'm sure many of us have heard of. Dangerous Spirit series is a fantastic series, by the way. Somebody like Reynard, a more indie writer who we'll actually be talking about his book today. Or the many writers who bring us so many anthologies full of short stories from just across the furryverse. Those are a great way to get into learning about the writing community in general and what furry fiction has to offer. So, furry fiction also is about some rather specific things. It features certain themes a lot more than other genres of literature would. For instance, the big one is identity. We are a fandom that is very concerned with identity. Our personas are about finding an identity that we can sort of inhabit and finding who we are. We also have queerness. We are a very queer fandom, and so you see a lot of queer representation in our books. Of course, we have representation in general. Usually I say if you don't feel represented in a lot of other literature, you can usually find yourself more represented in furry literature because it really does sort of go just above and beyond in catering to everybody. Of course, romance. We are a very lovesick fandom. We have a lot of queer romance, especially, that are just so much to choose from so many different subgenres. And then we have something called speculative literature. And if you don't know what that is, speculative literature is sort of about a what-if scenario. And with furries, it typically is very easy to say, what if this, but animal people. So you have things like the Reclamation Project, which is a post-apocalyptic solar punk universe. What if post-apocalypse, but furries? You have White Rock, which is about a society of intelligent avians, which is another book we'll be talking about today, things like that. Then we have history, which is kind of a surprising one. It sort of falls into the speculative realm. where you say, what if this moment in history, but with animal people, which results in quite a lot of differences that are quite interesting. And then we have short stories. Short stories are kind of a mainstay of furry fiction because so many writers across the furry fandom are able to put all of their work together into a single volume on a certain topic or theme. It's, like I said, a great way to sort of become familiar with the furry writing community and become familiar with a lot of authors very quickly. And then, of course, we have adult stuff. Lots of adult stuff. We're not going to be talking about that today. This is the general audiences panel, but we will be talking about it tomorrow. I will have a panel at 9 p.m. in the MacArthur room, just down the hall, where we'll be talking about furry erotic fiction and giving away some erotic books. So, come around for that tomorrow. So, before I begin, right at the start here, I want to give you guys everything you need, you can pass that around, to discover plenty of furry fiction for yourself. Let me see. There it is. Lost my clicker. So, I want to give you the tools that you need right off the bat to find all the furry fiction you could ever want. So, I'm passing around, flyers getting passed around right now that contains a whole bunch of information for you. The first page tells you where to find stuff and where to buy stuff. Finding stuff is really easy. You can go to sites like Fur Affinity and So Furry, which just got a new coat of paint that has a whole bunch of different sort of accessibility settings for reading stories on there. There are audiobooks, a growing number of furry audiobooks actually, that you can check out on Audible and Libro FM. There are podcasts, which read a whole bunch of different short stories written by authors across the fandom. So if you have a long drive back from the con this weekend, that is a great thing to maybe put on. And we have other sites like Blue Sky is sort of the site where all the writers in the furry fandom ran to after Twitter went off the rails. And we also have a whole bunch of furry publishers there for you to check out, where you can go and buy some of these books if you're looking for them. And I believe Fenris and Beware, which are they're the same company, are actually here in the dealer's den, so you can go check them out.
I'm sorry, Shiloh.
Oh, what's up?
Don't mind us, just
No
keep
problem.
talking. Ignore the staff in the mirror.
No problem. So, on the second page here, we have the 6 books that I'm going to be talking about here today, and then we have the 6 books that I wanted to talk about today, but simply did not have time. So, if you don't hear about something that you think you'd be interested in on the left side, hopefully there'll be something there on the right. Those are some other excellent books that will suit your needs. And on the back, we have a bunch of writers in the furry fandom that I think their work is spectacular. They have a whole bunch of stuff online available for you to check out. And of course, we have my website, which has a whole bunch of resources for you. It has a bunch of recommended reading. It has a little award show that I do at the end of every year, just talking about all the books that I read. I read 41 books last year, and I gave little accolades to them. There's also book reviews. I try to get a book review out every week, if possible. We'll see how long I can keep that up. And there's my own writing and the PDFs of this showcase and past showcases that I've done will also be on this website, along with recordings of them, assuming the video all goes well. So, it's time for the actual books, but more importantly, it is time for giveaways. So the way the giveaways are going to work is, so I have note cards with a number written on them in my terrible handwriting, And those are getting passed around right now. And after I talk about each book, I am going to pull up this extremely technologically advanced random number generator on my phone that we will then use to determine who wins a copy of each book. All right. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the first book I have here is Alancia Chronicles. This is a sort of fantasy adventure book. Sort of has a sort of Magitech vibe to it. It's a fantasy where they use guns and a bunch of different technology. I think there's like a spaceship up there that they talk about at some point. And it, I think, is one of my favorite sort of big tomes of the year. It's one that you really get to sink your teeth into. It's by Transcendent Fiction Publishing, or TF Publishing, and they are a company out of Australia that is specifically focused on transgender and female authors and the representation of trans and female people or characters in their books. So, the way I tend to describe this book in one sentence is extremely apathetic transgender pirate stumbles into a holy war. That is probably the most eye-catching way that I can phrase it. It is a rather chaotic book, and I love that about it. The extremely apathetic transgender pirate in question is Verse. And Verse is someone who presents as male in reality, but is able to present fully as female in her dreams. And she's able to have these very lucid dreams where she's able to sort of talk to people who may or may not be real. So the book sort of starts with Verse and a friend sort of pirating, robbing a boat out in the middle of the ocean. And the robbery sort of goes bad, and the ocean dies in the middle of the robbery. Oceans in this world can die. What basically happens is they stop functioning as oceans. They just become a bunch of still water, I believe, and they get filled with monsters that all of a sudden show up. So they have to, from the south there in this world, run to the continent before they get eaten alive, and then try to sort of get to the north and escape through an ocean that actually works. They stumble upon this massive holy war that is going on in the middle of this continent. They have absolutely do not want anything to do with. But of course, there's you can't keep protagonists out of the main conflict of the story. So, this story features a couple of different characters that they pick up along the way. Zan is Verse's friend who is with them from the beginning, and the other three, Cecilia, Karina, and Basil, come in along the adventure to form the eventual, five-man band. They all need therapy. These characters are insane. If you love characters that are just off the wall, and all have their own massive baggage, all their own drama going on, and all are just like butting heads, you will love the characters in this book. There's a lot of development that goes on there. So, when you pick up this book, what exactly are you getting? You're getting a lot of trans dysphoria themes, a lot of struggling with gender that Verse goes through that is very relatable to trans audiences. You also get that five-man band archetype that works so well. A five-man band, if you don't know what that is you have basically a team, a group that stays together that sort of goes throughout the whole story, and there's 5 of them, and they each kind of fulfill a role, an archetype. You have like the strong one, the leader, the heart, the smart guy, that sort of thing. And a lot of these characters kind of fit into those archetypes to a degree, but they also subvert them in a lot of really interesting ways. So, friendship. The power of friendship is my favorite trope. I love it so much. And this one has a lot of really, dysfunctional friendships. The power of dysfunctional friendship, I would say, that I really enjoy about this book. A lot of dark secrets going on. You can probably imagine that Verse is a lot more involved in the Holy War situation than they would like to be, whether they like it or not. And that revolves around certain things within their past. We've seen that before. And then there's a heck of a lot of action and mayhem throughout this book. So if you're a fan of action scenes and not falling asleep during a story that doesn't have them, you will enjoy this book. What I personally loved about this book is that character psychology. Characters are so interesting in this book, and they're all extremely different. Even the side characters. The favorite, I believe there was a poll done from the readers of this book where they determined that a side character was their favorite character in the book. So the side characters are even like fleshed out and amazing. It's a non-traditional fantasy, I'd say. Like I said, they're out there using guns and different technology. There's some mention of space in the first book. So there's something going on up there, which I still don't know about because the second book hasn't come out yet. There's a lot of doing the wrong thing. The characters often will do frustrating things, and they will not particularly follow the morally correct route. Even the protagonist does not do what is, morally correct all the time. So it results in a lot of subverting of expectations. And it is wonderfully illustrated. There are images throughout this entire book. One of my favorite aspects of it is occasionally Verse will journal in the book. They'll have little journaling sections. And it's offset by little pictures of Verse writing and Verse sleeping and stuff like that. So I just find it adorable. So this is one that you can get at TF Publishing. They are an Australian site, but they have sourcing in the United States, so don't worry about that. They get it to you really fast. So, we will give this one away. Does everybody have a note card? Awesome. What's the highest note
They were
card?
not taken in order.
They were not taken in order.
So you're going to have to shuffle, it might take a few hits.
Oof. Okay. That sucks.
You put 69 in the cards, it's gonna happen.
What's the highest number we got? I saw you have 40 back there. Anybody have higher than 40?
44.
54, 44,
55.
55,
69 is over there.
60.
69.
Okay.
69.
I'll just put in 75. That's the number of ones that I made. And then we'll keep going until we hit somebody. We can do this, I believe in us.
We went in order until somebody thought, wait a minute, I can grab any card. That's what we will discover.
Alright. So, first number is 48.
Right here.
Hey, Furry! Did you take that to take the books with you? Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you to Slanter and Andy for helping me out today. All right. So moving on, we're doing good on time here. We have the book Winter Without End. Winter Without End is a post-apocalyptic thriller. It is a very beautiful book. It gives you big Call of the Wild vibes, which is what I thought I was picking up when I read it, or when I bought it a couple years ago. Turns out it's a post-apocalyptic thriller, which was certainly a subversion of my expectations. But it is fantastic as well. It's a really beautiful book. It's written by Casimir Lasky. Casimir Lasky has written a lot of stories in anthologies. One of the anthologies that we're going to be talking about today actually has a story by him in it. he has this really beautiful, flowing, experienced writing style that I absolutely love. He also has a channel on YouTube called Cardinal West, where he talks about literature, sometimes furry literature. So, like I said, that little anthology there that just popped up is what we'll be talking about later. So, it's the apocalypse, but at least it's kind of pretty. A lot of aurora borealis going on in this apocalypse. And when I talk about what kind of apocalypse it is, we're talking plague. So this is a modern setting somewhere in the north with a massive plague that has run through all of humanity. And the kind of plague it is like a Mask of the Red Death level plague. Like it's one that I think takes you out pretty darn quickly. The very first scene is the main character, Knight, the Labrador, watching his owner die from this plague. Knight is what I would describe as a level 1 canine in this post-apocalyptic world. He has no experience on how to live without his owner. And once he figures out that his owner is not coming back after this plague has taken him, he then is able to get outside and he meets up with Sierra, who is a level 60 canine. Sierra is an injured wolf who needs help to actually get food now that she is injured, and Knight thus becomes somebody that she has to teach to survive in the wild in order to continue living, and that results in her teaching Knight essentially how to be a wolf in this world and survive despite being a domesticated dog who does not have necessarily have the capability of doing so, which makes for some very interesting drama and limitations on the characters as well. The question I have to ask myself is this the road with dogs? If you know what The Road is a book by Cormac McCarthy about a father and his son going through an apocalyptic world, traveling south in order to try to find a better place to survive. It is an extremely bleak post-apocalyptic story. And this story kind of follows a similar format to that, but is not as bleak as Cormac McCarthy's The Road, thank God. But it is still a good comparison to make, that it kind of follows that format of trying to survive in this hellscape while experiencing some rather gruesome stuff along the way. So, when you pick up this book, you get a very cold, very hungry apocalypse. A lot of animals trying to survive in the wild is just hunger. So you have them trying to find food constantly. You have them trying to survive this deep cold that is set in as well. It's rather bleak and violent as well. You have some very disturbing scenes in here, actually, with characters, wild is rough, and you get some very nature documentary scenes in here because of it. It is a talking animals story. Talking animals in quotes, of course. So you have the animals, of course, having dialogue with one another in the story. Of course, you have the sort of learning to be wild plot line, sort of a return to nature, and you have a bonding between these two friends through their survival. Two very unlikely friends coming together and essentially saving each other through trying to survive together. What I personally loved about it is it's got really flowing prose and beautiful descriptions. I'm a bit of a prose nerd. I love the way things are written in the writing, the style of writing. And so I really appreciated how just developed and beautiful prose sounds in this book. The events in it kind of feel a little episodic to me. like they encounter things sort of one by one as they go through the story. So they play out in sort of like an episodic way, in my opinion. The challenges of being a domesticated wolf that kind of like doesn't have the agility, the bite strength, the claws of the bulk of a wolf. A domesticated dog would have trouble surviving, and the way that is described in this book is, of course, very interesting as well. And there's a lot of tense, very disturbing moments. Like I said, they come across some crazy stuff, and some really wild and thrilling scenes. There's one scene in particular in this that's like almost why I call it a thriller, because it's such an intense, wild scene that like still sticks with me. That's especially memorable considering I read this book a couple of years ago, actually, and a lot of the scenes in it still are like viscerally like in my mind. And like I said, a lot of memorable events, as I just described. So this is one that I think you can actually get at Fenris Publishing's Dealer's Den table this weekend if you want to pick it up. So go grab that. All right, so let's see what we got here. 68. Yeah, 68. Nobody? Okay. 14. Okay. We'll get there. 9. Awesome. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. All right, time for tears. So the next book that we're going to be talking about is A Portrait for Tomorrow. Very much an unexpected hit for me that is a very emotional book. This book is sort of a romance, and kind of a drama. It's written by this guy named Bernard, who this is his debut book. And I met him at MFF, and he's a great guy. He even apologized to me for giving me a bit of for making me cry. Because this is an emotional book, and it's one of my favorites of last year for sure. It is about this character named Gerald, who's a sad lion boy, and he is somebody who has recently lost his mother. His mother was a great artist, and he is also an artist. And the book actually starts out with him having lost his mother, but it also starts off at a funeral for his grandmother. So he's very familiar with loss at the beginning of this story. And at the funeral, he meets this precious fox boy, who is the most perfect, precious fox boy you will ever see, and begins to start a relationship with him. This guy, his name's Michael, and he is a musician, and he's also sort of described as being rather philosophical. He has a lot of insight about the world around him, and is able to teach Gerald quite a lot about the world and dealing with the world as a result. He's able to kind of bring Gerald out of the sort of funk that's prevented him from doing art in life, and that has prevented him from finishing this big, massive project that his mother started that he now wants to finish, this series of portraits. But as their relationship is getting started and really is coming into its own, there's a health scare. Somebody, Michael, has a health scare halfway through the book that is a threat to that, blossoming relationship that they're having, and a threat to, all the tools that Michael has given Gerald to make a better life for himself. it sort of reminds me of like a furry version of The Fault in Our Stars in that way. It doesn't follow the same like formula story-wise, but it was kind of interesting coming back to a story like this after reading The Fault in Our Stars back in like high school. So in this one, when you pick it up, you're getting a really beautiful, very thoughtful romance. It, I think, was also rather realistic as well. You get a lot of lessons on life, loss, and love. It's rather philosophical, but not to a too high level, like pretentious degree, which I really appreciated. It has the most precious fox boy you've ever seen in your life. You will fall in love with this character. He is wonderful. And seeing him go through this health scare that he has is all that more effective because of it. You have overcoming a family strife. Gerald actually has a father who is an alcoholic, who's also being taken advantage of by a girlfriend that he has. So you have a lot of him dealing with that dysfunctional family relationship as well. A lot of tears, good and bad tears in this one. A lot of good happens, a lot of bad happens, and it's all very emotional. Personally, I think one of the interesting parts of this book is that it's a rather simple, kind of straightforward story, actually. You kind of can even sometimes see what's going to happen before it happens, but it's done so well that it's an example of how a simple story can be amazing when it's done just very well. The philosophy, like I said, it isn't too overbearing, it isn't pretentious, which is something that I was worried about at first, but I actually really like the amount that was in here. And I think it's relatively realistic. It's not, I don't know if I'd consider it slice of life, because slice of life has like a very specific vibe, but I think some people might consider it that. Like I said, it's like a furry Fault in Our Stars, and was interested to kind of revisit that type of story after so long. And the cover art is wonderful. If you know Animal Shapes, they do a lot of really beautiful art. You can follow them on Blue Sky, and I think it'll be well worth a while. I've seen them vend at places like, I think they were at Midwest Fur Fest this year too, which was awesome to see them there. So this is one that you can get at a site called thinkingfox.com. That's the author's personal website, and you always want to buy off the author's personal website whenever you can with self-published books. All right. So, give it a chance once again. 46. Got it? Awesome. The random number generator gods are with us today. All right. So next one is a book called White Rock. Gotta go through these a little fast here. So White Rock is an adventure, and it's a speculative fiction novel. This one is by an author in Hal Adis. He's a local author, actually, in the Milwaukee area. And he would have been here this weekend, but he is actually a bird surgeon, like a licensed bird surgeon, and he got called away on field work. So he would be selling this book in the dealer's den, but unfortunately, you'll have to get it online if you're interested. This book is a book about a world that is post-apocalyptic. Humanity is gone, and the world has sort of been taken over by intelligent avian species that humanity helped uplift before they went extinct. So birds now rule the world, basically, and they exist within the ruins of humanity because of that. And a bird surgeon, somebody who knows so much about birds, is like super qualified to make a book like this, which makes it crazy interesting as a result. You learn a heck of a lot about different species of birds. So the book itself is about a character named Sasha, who is a barn owl, which means that I will always associate him with the voice of Elijah Wood from Guardians of Ga'Hoole, if you've ever seen that movie. And Sasha and his friend Pepro, who is a bald eagle, work at a blacksmith's work. Yeah, they're gay. They're gay birds. They're very gay for each other, which I always appreciate. But they work in a blacksmith shop, which, if you're wondering how that works for birds, you're gonna find out. And they work for this master blacksmith who's a raven named Kor, who's a very central, interesting character. They, at the beginning of the book, a king comes along from a neighboring kingdom who needs bonding rings made for a marriage that's coming up between him and his fiance. He needs them on very, very short notice, though, unfortunately. So Sasha, Pepro, and a friend named Nix, who they meet up with along the way, travel to the city of White Rock to get the gold that they need in order to make these rings. And along the way, they sort of come across a lot of conspiracy and drama that they didn't intend to get into when they set out. I love that this entire book revolves around, it is like the inciting incident is that birds need shiny things. It's just so fitting that a shiny thing set off all this plot line. So this one has gay birds. Like I said, something that I appreciate as a gay guy. But it's also, like I said, a post-human book. Humans are all gone by the end of this book, or by the beginning of this book, and they get to kind of sort through a lot of human ruins and human technology throughout this. There's a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue that happens as a result of them sort of stumbling upon this crazy conspiracy that they run into while in the city of White Rock. And a lot of bird science. This is something where you're actually going to learn quite a bit while you read, because like I said, the author is an avian surgeon and he knows his stuff. So you get kind of his perspectives and even like anatomical diagrams to help you like learn more about avian anatomy and stuff. There's like a glossary in the back that explains to you certain terms. It's a great learning opportunity. And that results in a lot of great world building for how birds would put together an intelligent society. Personally, I love that world building, just especially because of how informed it is, and it also is not afraid to get weird. Birds are weird. If you ever watch bird YouTube videos like I do, I love bird videos. They can be weird sometimes, and they can be very messy and very lustful as well. So a lot of the time, even in the not adult version of this book, they still are like, there's brothels everywhere because birds get crazy in the spring. And like I said, there's a not safe for work and safe for work version. I'm giving away the safe for work version, of course, this time around, or for this panel. I will be giving away an adult version during the adult panel tomorrow. The characters are great. I think especially the character development is very well improved from Haliadus's previous work as well. Kind of seeing him develop as a writer has been really interesting. And when I say the characters are great, Brant is probably one of my favorite characters that I read about last year. He is an enforcer seagull, basically a cop who's a seagull, and he gets a lot of shit for it. And every time he takes his job way too seriously, and every chapter of his is like written in a noir style. I just find it wonderful. So this book also has a lot of really lovely illustrations. I believe multiple artists worked on this book, but it still has a very cohesive visual style that I loved. And like I said, it has these really nice anatomical diagrams to help you learn more about these avian species. So this is one that you can get at Adis's website, adisart.com. All right, let's do this again. 55.
Oh.
Got it? Awesome. All right, so let's talk about Tales of Scales. Tales of Scales is a short story collection by a single author by the name of Minikuri Bookworm. The book is under the pen name Michael Miel, and Minikuri Bookworm is what he typically goes by online. If you've seen him around before, he's read a heck of a lot more books than me, and he's a really nice guy. This book, it focuses on dragons. All of these stories feature dragons, so if you are a dragon fan, get ready, because this is a wonderful one. There are a lot of very creative story concepts in this one. For instance, there's one of the first stories is about like a cyborg dragon who builds a spaceship to find his lost mentor. So it gets to that level of creativity. You have like these really out there stories like that, and then you have the ones that are more reined in and taking place in like a standard dragon plot line. You have stuff like an adventurer falling in love with the dragon that he's sent to slay. You have a group of kobolds forming a workers' union, which is just a wonderful story. It's actually kind of like a little novelette or novella in the back of the book itself. So in this one, you get magic. Magic is just throughout this entire book, and it's used in each story in a very different way, which I always appreciate seeing magic used in unique ways in this day and age. You get multiple genres, different levels of tone, different levels of seriousness throughout the book. And you get, of course, all types of dragons in the process via, elemental dragons, eastern dragons. And then you have just a plethora of whimsy. This book is very whimsical and very lighthearted throughout most of its storytelling. And I think it's really good for young audiences too. If you're looking for something from the fandom that young audiences will still be able to appreciate, this is probably a really good choice for that. Personally, I think loved the creativity of this one. Just the range of draconic stuff that it explores is just a lot of fun. There's plenty of variety because of that. It has a very easygoing writing style. Like I said, I think it's great for younger audiences because of that as well. It's actually 9 stories and 1 novella. So you get a really good amount of content here. But you get it in kind of a shorter book, so it doesn't take too much time. It doesn't drag on. Thank you. So this is one that you can get at Fenner's Publishing's Dealer's Den table as well here, as long as they still have copies available. All right. Here we go. And 11, and an ad for Reddit. Yeah, I got the free version of this one. Anybody have 11? Okay. 36. No 36. 6.
Oh.
There we go. Enjoy. All right. So lastly, we have a book called The Heavens Within Our Grasp. This is an interesting one. This is a short story anthology, but it's a historical short story anthology. It is put together by a group of furries who are interested in historical fiction, in historical speculative fiction, and they so far have released 4 different anthologies with a whole bunch of short stories going through different time periods. So you have like the prehistoric era, you have the medieval era, you have the early modern era one that they just released. We're going to be talking about the medieval one today, or giving away the medieval one today. but I'll be talking about sort of the whole range of the books because they're all just fantastic. This is, history, but this time it's full of furries. So these are the covers of those books. They have some really beautiful cover art in them. The Furry Historical Fiction Society is full of just a huge amount of authors. It is probably the best way right now to get an idea of the furry writing landscape, to get familiar with a whole lot of writers very quickly, all in one place. They're all just fantastic. So some of the stories that I particularly loved, there's one in the prehistoric anthology called Let Him That Speaketh Fate to Men Have No Fate of His Own, which is a Rob McWolf title if I've ever heard one. Rob McWolf is an amazing writer who's extremely creative, and this story is about an oracle who I believe who somebody comes to his island. Somebody comes to his island to sort of hang out, but then receives sort of a prophecy that would make them have to leave. And the two have sort of fallen in love during this time. And the oracle has to essentially choose if they're going to tell this guy about that prophecy that will make him leave their relationship behind. This results in some characters that actually are recurring throughout Rob's stories throughout these anthologies. There's also Tomes Entombed Within Me, which was my favorite short story, I think of 2024. Yes, 2024. It is a story in the Antiquity Anthology, and it is about the burning of the Library of Alexandria. It's about a character who was an assistant librarian there when it burned, and turns out he has a photographic memory and has read most of what the Library of Alexandria has to offer. So he is the only one who can bring back all of these tomes that have burned, and that drives him through a great deal of stress. That is a lot of pressure to put on a person, and the exploration of that in the story is remarkable. I loved it. And then there's Heaven Will Weigh the Heart of Stone, which was my favorite short story of last year. It is about a guy who challenges a knight to a duel simply because he is gay and he is enamored by this knight, and his family wants him to prove he's a man by dueling him. And it is a wonderful story that I think will go to places that you don't necessarily expect. And it's on theme with the medieval theme that we have here at the con this year. So this is one that you also get at TF Publishing. That's the main distributor for this one, just like the Elancia Chronicles that I was talking about earlier. All right, we're right on time. The final book giveaway. 39. We have 39. 52. All right. Thank you, random number generator app. All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. It was a lovely turnout. Remember, I want the adult version of the panel tomorrow at 9 p.m. just down the hall here in the MacArthur room. I'll be happy to see you there. Have a great con.
Thank you.